Hey, welcome to the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick.
This is Joe.
And we talk about Warriors from an old school fan perspective because if you didn't love them at their worst, you don't deserve them at their best.
That's right.
All right, man. So let's talk about something non-Warriors related. Our man, Jimmy Butler.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, I want to hear you. I'm eminently delighted by this story. So yeah, what are your thoughts on what happened? Actually, let's talk about what exactly happened, right? Like what exactly happened?
To be honest, all that I really followed about what happened is that he was hurt end of last year, and that he wants a contract, and he just doesn't feel appreciated, and he says it's not the money, and he doesn't get along with his teammates.
He doesn't think they're winners. He thinks his teammates are soft.
Okay, so he's leaving because his teammates are soft.
Yeah, so I guess what happened this week that everyone's talking about is he showed up at practice late. First practice that he's avoided the team, all team activities, all the team meetings.
Now, did the team know he was going to show up, or did ESPN just know?
ESPN knew for sure because he told them, he tipped them, but he showed up practice late, and then he ran scrimmage with the third, the third team, and beat the starters. And apparently, the whole time he's just talking shit at Karl Anthony Towns, at Andrew Wiggins, at Thibodeau, at Layden, the GM, saying things like, "You guys need me. You can't win without me." Screaming at them, like just ratcheted up the intensity. You know, it's like it's a scrimmage before the season has even started, right? Preseason scrimmage. So probably not going like 100% everyone, but Jimmy Butler plays his ass off, anyways, right?
Right.
So I imagine he's just playing his ass off, getting the third team like really like amped up. And he beat the starters, and apparently a couple things happened. There's one play where Cat was posting up on Jimmy, and Jimmy screamed at him, "Hey, you can't do anything." I'm paraphrasing, but you can't do anything. You can't do anything to me. And Cat was so frustrated he just kicked the ball. And then and the best part is he just like after practice is over, he just left without talking to anyone. And apparently Wiggins went up to him and gave him a dap.
Wait, went up to Butler?
Yeah, he went up to Butler and gave him a dap. I was like, "Hey man, good practice."
Wait, so
and he left without talking to anyone, like total mic drop. And then 6 hours later, he was recording an interview for ESPN and talking about like why he and his what he said was, and again I'm paraphrasing, his argument was, it's not about, you're right, what you mentioned, it's not about the money, it's the fact that he didn't feel like he could win with these guys. And he felt that he's not as talented. He actually said like, I'm not the most talented player on the team. Cat is the most talented. I'm not the one with the most God-given abilities. Wiggins, he calls him Wiggs, which I think is a great nickname. Wiggs is, right? And I just don't think there's, he doesn't think they have the metal to like win.
Did the team, were they scrimmaging and then he just walked in and they didn't know he was going to come? Or was it kind of, or we don't know? Because I think that's funny if they were playing and all of a sudden it's like this dramatic like moment where he like walks in.
What would be worse? What would be worse if they didn't know?
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's that, right? Like as heavily construed and choreographed this whole practice and interview were, then that's how I choose to imagine Jimmy Butler kind of was, playing the puppeteer in this. Yeah, that's funny, man. I just don't see how this. I mean, this is like so peak NBA entertainment. You know what I mean? Like with getting Woj to report on it, getting Rachel Nichols to set up a formal interview and everything, and have his like. I mean, did you watch any clips of his interview with Rachel Nichols? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he just had all these talking points. You know what I mean? He seemed like he was reciting lines in like a movie, and it just seemed very, very like rehearsed. His PR people, I don't even know.
Yeah, I watched the interview, and yeah, you're right. I appreciate the calculated nature in which he conducted himself. If what he told Rachel Nichols was true, he immediately told Tom Thibodeau after the season was over that I can't win with this team, and they're all soft, right? And Thibodeau, of course, he's like, he loves Jimmy Butler so much, and he's bringing in all these old Chicago guys because he feels like they can give Taj Gibson, Derrick Rose. I mean, he would sign Joakim Noah if he could, right?
Right.
I think he knows that Cat, Wiggins, a lot of these guys, they're more into like to paraphrase again something I read, they're more into like playing Fortnite, than winning championships,
Right.
And I guess it's really frustrating because they're also super talented. Like Cat can score from anywhere. He's amazing. Like he's one of the best offensive big men. He's not great on defense, and I think that's probably a source of frustration for Jimmy Butler too.
Yeah, I mean, Cat, he does seem soft, in that respect. You know what I mean? I mean, the fact that he kicked the ball, I mean, that just sounds like a frustrated little child, right?
Yeah. And just imagining Jimmy Butler like screaming at him the entire practice, and he gets so frustrated. And another thing I read was that apparently after Jimmy Butler left, Cat tried to get everyone together and say, "Hey, man, let's just keep our emotions in check." And like, but again, this is hearsay, but I guess some of the players just took it as lip service, right? Like, you're not being serious,
Right.
Like Cat was trying to demonstrate some leadership, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like Jimmy Butler had put on like a leadership clinic for the duration of practice.
What do you think's going to happen?
Well, they don't have to do anything. The thing is, like, Minnesota doesn't have to do anything because they're not. Yeah, like they can wait until the trade deadline, right? And also, the offers they're getting are not great offers. They're asking for a lot from a bunch of other teams. I think the most recent one I read was from Houston. Houston was willing to give up Eric Gordon, but they also wanted PJ Tucker. Minnesota also wanted PJ. They're going to ask for the moon, and quite frankly, I think that's what they should do.
They should, yeah, definitely.
From optics standpoint, like Jimmy Butler his team knows this, so they're just trying to destroy the optics of the situation, and in favor of Jimmy Butler.
Right.
They're doing a pretty good job so far.
On Butler's end, is there a deadline?
He apparently said he apparently told Thibodeau that he wanted to be traded by Friday, which is tomorrow.
Friday,
as of the recording date.
Friday the 12th.
Friday the 12th.
So, in theory, if they get a deal done, great, move on, whatever, goes to Miami or who knows where. If it doesn't happen, he's not going to forfeit his paycheck. And clearly he's shown that he will show up and he will, beat the crap out of his other teammates. So is that how they're going to function? Like he's going to show up and they're going to start playing games and he's just going to throw like really like hard passes at
he's going to be a terror in practice, and he's going to speak his mind in interviews, and of course the media, the basketball media is going to want. He seems like he's going to be an open book, right? So
yeah,
I mean, just the things he was saying during that Rachel Nichols interview, I was like, wow. But the thing is, he's being such an asshole about it, and people are on his side. Like people are firmly. I think, anecdotally, it seems like more people are on his side than not. I was on the NBA subreddit last night, just reading I wanted to see what the reaction of the Minnesota fans were. And there was a thread. The topic of the thread was, would Jimmy Butler be booed by his fans, by Minnesota, right? If he ends up staying on the team for the first game, right? And it seemed like most Minnesota fans were actually saying no. Like he's the first like dog player they've had since KG. KG, that's his thing. KG was maniacally intense about winning. And that's the last time they've ever had a guy like that. They haven't made the playoffs in forever, so until last year. So
yeah, it makes sense, right? Because they've had Cat and they've had Wiggins, and neither of those guys. I mean, again, they have all the talent in the world, but neither of them have improved in what they need to. Like, Cat defense and leadership and toughness, and Wiggins just defense and effort. I mean,
and dribbling with both hands.
Yeah, that's got to be frustrating. And the fact that they're, if Butler wasn't,
stuck, and that's another thing you didn't mention is they're stuck with. Cat just re-signed for a lot of money, right? So,
and Wiggins signed for a ton of money last year.
Yep.
I feel like Wiggins is more of the albatross because any other team would be like, I'll take Towns.
I would take Cat. I would take Cat on the Warriors, man. He's good.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
He's super good.
That's the thing. I wouldn't take Wiggins.
And like, you don't need him to be a leader. You just need, hey man, just get buckets, rebound, and be super
Yeah,
talented, and be a system guy, right? So
having lived through obviously the really god awful Warriors years, I kind of do a little bit feel for the Minnesota fans because they lived through the con years, and now that things are starting to get good, like you have this like clown show. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's pretty rough. I mean, they hit on Cat as a pick. Wiggins was all right, and then you get Butler, and you think you're gonna start making moves, and now it's like, you know, um, I wonder if David Kahn could do better.
remember when Thibodeau was hired, everyone was pretty excited about it because he had been out of the league for a little while. He left Chicago under some like suspect conditions with the team management, and one of the things you had mentioned before is, remember that summer he was going, when he didn't have a job, and he was going around to different teams visiting them, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of articles were being written about how it's more
Yes.
relaxed Tom Thibodeau,
Yes.
less intense.
Yep.
Maybe he's
He visited the Warriors.
yeah. Just like I really wish like somehow he had like a crystal ball that would like show him like various things that would happen over his next like 4 years. Oh, I'm gonna be a coach again. Oh, I'm gonna get Jimmy Butler back, and then Jimmy Butler's gonna go nuclear on the team.
Yeah, and I'm gonna play them all 45 minutes a game and ruin their knees. I don't think Thibodeau learned anything. I mean, I wonder if he plays like cool music during practice like Steve Kerr does. I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. What music does Steve Kerr play?
I don't know. I think he lets other players kind of come up with, and staff, rotating playlists and stuff like that.
He let them play Coco. I'm in love with the Coco. Their first championship season, which is a song that glorifies cocaine. So
those were classic moments. Yeah. Still my favorite championship team, which is actually a weird thing to say. My favorite championship team.
You're listening to the Oakland Warriors podcast. Do you know Oakland Warriors is a website too? OAKLANDWarriors.com offers a collection of Warriors t-shirts that are comfy, classy, and cool. Fit for a real Warriors fan like you. Forget basic tees and boring designs. With Oakland Warriors, you can show your team pride with those in the know. So come celebrate the new Death lineup with Steph, Klay, Draymond, KD, and Boogie. Rep the Hamptons 5 and show some love for China Klay. I have a shirt from OaklandWarriors.com. It's comfy and soft, and it reps the Dubs in a low-key but fun way. Don't believe me? Check out OaklandWarriors.com and use the code PODCAST at checkout for a 10% discount.
I had a couple friends who were also longtime Warriors fans mention to me that they think that this Butler thing could be it reminds them of Sprewell. Maybe peak Warriors of the 90s when he choked PJ
in 1997.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but just the sheer like absurdity and dysfunction, because I mean he's not going to choke Tibbs, I mean I don't think he can get his hands around Tibbs' neck. Oh, cheap shot. How do you think this is all going to play out?
Yeah, like I said, it's sort of like you have on one hand Jimmy Butler, the leverage. I mean, Minnesota's leverage is they don't have to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we know that from a contractual, from a legal standpoint, that's not all. Those are not the only factors. PR, optics is another factor, right?
Man, it's. Can I just say it's great doing a podcast with an attorney who can like always just be like contracts, legal.
I mean, all I said was legal and contracts, so I didn't do any analysis, but I'll take it. I'll take the compliment. Thanks.
You need a law degree for that.
You do, in order to say those words in the same sentence. I don't think Minnesota needs to do anything from a business standpoint, but. Well, actually, no, from a legal and contract standpoint, but from a business standpoint, overall business standpoint, you have to also factor in the marketing, the PR, and also the goodwill that has been kind of hindered by all the stuff, like the goodwill that was generated from last season, right? I was super stoked for the Timberwolves to be back.
Yeah, Yeah, me too. And
I love Jimmy
actually,
Butler. I've always been a big fan of his. So
yeah, and I liked Minnesota's
I do too.
uniforms. I thought they were
I like their
different,
court.
and
They have a great court.
yeah,
They sort of an
yeah,
off the wood paneling look, right? It
yeah.
looks pretty cool. What about you? What do you think?
So, I mean, I think they're going to go into the season with Jimmy Butler, unless because I read that like a deal with the Heat fell through, and that the Heat are trying to pick up talks again. So if something happens, then great. But if something doesn't happen by this cutoff, I think they'll play with him for a while. I think it'll be one of the most entertaining things to follow in the NBA in a long time. And then there'll be some drama, and then they'll just have to make a move. I think that's because Butler's shown that he'll show up, and it all really depends on how long they can roll with that.
Hey, guess what? By the way, as of this morning, Timberwolves will not practice today, and no media availability.
The optics of that is just like kind of shuffling your feet, like an ostrich stuffing your head into the ground. It's just like they're scared. They're shook. They don't know what to do. So Jimmy Butler just shook the whole entire Minnesota Timberwolves franchise.
Breaking news by Shams as of 48 minutes ago. He called Jimmy Butler, also called a players only meeting today to air his feelings. And also he expressed to players that he would compete with them, as signs pointing to him staying with the franchise into the regular season. So what if this was just like strategically his way of like lighting that fire, right? And then for somehow Cat and Wiggins and everyone else, because he has allies on this team. Half the players love him.
Right.
Like Jeff Teague is one of his good friends. Taj Gibson played with him for the Bulls. Derrick Rose. I don't know what Derrick Rose is thinking, but I'm pretty sure he's cool either way.
Yeah, Derrick Rose just happy to be on the court.
Luol Deng. I forgot he's on the team.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course. Come on.
Get the band back together.
Mid 2010s Bulls. He's got to get them back together. So early 2010s Bulls.
I don't know if that's his way of motivating the team. That's brilliant. That being said, I don't know. Like I like Butler too. I mean, I think he's great. I don't know. I mean, with the injuries and at age 29, like I don't know. I don't know what's a good fit for him wherever he goes. I mean, he could play. Obviously, he said the Clippers. Did he say the Knicks? But neither of those teams really want to deal with this, and they haven't really done anything. So,
Miami is very interested. Houston was in talks as a trade partner as well.
Yeah. Oh, man, if he goes to Houston, that's no good. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, neither. I was actually thinking about that. So they give up Gordon and possibly Tucker, but they get Jimmy Butler. So then they would roll out Chris Paul, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Carmelo, and Capella. Yeah, that's a tough team.
Yeah, that's a very tough team. There is a part of me that would love to see that matchup, but there's another part of me that wouldn't, because that increases the chances that the Warriors would lose. But I don't see Butler. He's somebody that could break down the next few years. He's
29, but he is in his prime.
He is, but
he was top 3 shooting guard last year, I think, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, shooting guard isn't the glamour position that it used to be, like in the 90s, in the early 2000s, when like all the best players.
I mean, he's up there with Klay for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
If anyone is ever depressed, upset, or is having a really bad day, they can just imagine Jimmy Butler teasing Karl Anthony Towns in practice so much that Cat just gets super upset, starts crying, and kicks the ball.
Right? Like, I can see
these are professionals here, man.
Yeah. I can see, not knowing much about Cat and his upbringing. I've seen like, clips of him when he was in high school interviewing Kevin Durant, but I can see like someone like Cat having never been like always being the best player, always winning it at like those levels, and then having somebody who's like older, tougher, never experiencing that before. You know what I mean?
Never being challenged on that level.
Exactly.
Right? Like challenged where you feel threatened.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Everybody,
Because he's not an alpha.
yeah.
He's as talented as he is. He's not an alpha, right? Jimmy Butler totally is.
Exactly.
There's a really great take I read on Twitter about how Jimmy Butler was the 30th pick, and he worked his way up to becoming an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
He had a really, really rough upbringing, really poor. I think he was an orphan.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah, and or either an orphan or his parents were not around.
Mm-hmm.
And and then he also had to work his way to getting a scholarship at Marquette.
Yep.
And just someone who had to scrap his entire life
to
get to where he's at, and then to go to a situation where he's like with these young players who don't have that same desire.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine how that might be frustrating.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that was a really good take. It makes sense. Like if you want to paint like a very like speculative like perspective on that situation, then yeah, that totally makes sense if it's true.
Right. It's like 2 coddled number 1 picks. Versus a guy who had to really fight his way to get to where he is. And I mean, it's like, you know, Draymond fighting to get to where he is. But the thing is, like, the Warriors don't have.
Then he won he won championships, and now Draymond is not the same Draymond that came into the league. I'll take that though.
But then the Warriors on their team, they don't have like those coddled number 1 picks, and even the guys who grew up with like NBA parents, Klay and Steph, they were vastly underrated. So like they had to work their tails off to get to and prove themselves even to this day.
Exactly.
So, but the Draymond thing, it's like I'm surprised like that clip of him, you know, like being left hanging when Steph dropped what was it, 53, 54 in the Garden.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't get around more often. I mean, that's one of the best like clips, NBA highlights I've ever seen, where Steph is doing that weird, awkward, dorky shimmy dance down the court, and he just goes right by Draymond, who has like it's just like high five. That to me is hilarious.
I feel like we've ventured into to becoming a Minneapolis Timberwolves podcast now. So, but it's juicy as hell. That story's juicy as hell. I was just like devouring all the news I could read about it last night, just because I just find it so humorous, and watching the interview too. And I just love when a villain can just become when a villain can transition to an anti-hero so effectively that everyone is just totally in his corner. Right.
Yeah.
It's so great. I just appreciate the cunning and the thoughtfulness that would be required to do that.
Right. Well, one thing about when you brought up Klay and Jimmy Butler as 2 of the top shooting guards, it's like when people talk to Klay about his free agency and his contract situation, and he always says like he likes it in the Bay Area. He wants to stay with the Warriors. And that the situation he has is what everybody else is looking for. And Jimmy Butler, if it's true that he wants to, you know, like he can't win with these guys, like that's exactly an echo of what Klay is saying. So I'm glad Klay's on the team.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And be sure to give us a rating. Unless you don't like it, then just mind your own business.
Get out of here. Don't listen to us. We don't want you anymore. Just kidding. We want you. Please.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Jeff Oakey as well as Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time, and go Dubs.